Hi fellow mortals and welcome to a new video. So for today's video I asked my viewers on Instagram and in my Discord server to send me some questions that I'll be answering in this video. All of these questions are related to me, my personal life, my YouTube account, my job, just overall questions about me being goth and all that sort of stuff. So I think this is a really great way to share more about myself, like on my YouTube channel. If you haven't already, check out my Instagram. I post a lot of extra goth content on there and I also do things like Q&As over there. So do follow me on Instagram and also join my Discord server. We have a lovely community over there, so if you want to be part of our community and do community stuff with us, we have made a playlist as a community where we all add songs to, mostly goth and metal songs, and we also do voice calls and we just chat a lot about stuff about goth things but also about other things. And of course I also do Q&As over there, so join my Discord server by the link in my description or the link in my comments down below, and I hope to see you there. So I had been wanting to do a Q&A video for a long time, but I always felt like I didn't have enough followers to do a Q&A because of course you need to have enough questions to make a whole video about it. But now I announced my Q&A on my Instagram and on Discord, but I got so many replies and now I think I can't even answer every single question. I'm going to try my best to answer as many questions that you guys have sent me as I can, but I cannot answer every single question because it's just too much and I don't want this video to be like an hour long. And I will also just answer the ones that I think I have the most interesting answers for. So I'm really sorry for the people whose questions won't be answered, but you can still send me a text on Instagram or on Discord, or you can comment down below. So I will try to group together some of the questions that I got because some are kind of similar, just to keep this video a little structured. So something that I know a lot of people have been wondering about is what is my favorite kind of goth music. So I got some questions from Zombie, who asked what is my favorite goth band and my favorite album or song, and what is your favorite subgenre of goth. And there was also Daria Arsenic, which I'm sorry if I pronounced any names incorrectly, by the way, like I'm just reading these things, but she asked if you could create your own goth band, which already existing goth band would be your #1 inspiration? So I'm just gonna group together these questions, and firstly I'm gonna say my favorite subgenre of goth music is definitely gothic rock. So a couple of bands that I really like listening to are, for example, Bauhaus is one of my favorites, as you can see. And also The Cure, which is also behind me. Of course, not every album from The Cure is exactly gothic rock, but I do listen to The Cure a lot. And also bands like Sisters of Mercy, Rosetta Stone, Fields of the Nephilim, and all that kind of music. That is definitely my favorite type of music. So a lot of people always ask me that, but I'm kind of afraid to like name bands. Like as a goth YouTuber, as soon as you name one band, everyone in the comments just starts going crazy about how that isn't really goth music or like something like that. So I try not to talk about it too much because I already get enough hate on my videos, so I don't want people to hate me for my music taste too. But I definitely do really love gothic rock, especially Bauhaus and The Cure. Those are like my two favorite bands. And also Rosetta Stone, I listen to them a lot. But it's often like a few songs that I just like from one band. I also do like listening to dark wave or like death rock. I definitely do have quite some songs of that subgenre in my goth playlist, but I think like the majority is goth rock, so if I had to choose one, it would be that. But I definitely listen to a lot of other types of goth music too. And to answer Daria's question, if I could create my own goth band, my #1 inspiration would probably be Sisters of Mercy. I know a lot of bands have them as their inspiration, especially like the vocals. I do really love the vocals in Sisters of Mercy, so I think that would be my #1 inspiration too. I don't think I could recreate it because like my voice can't do that, and I also would never be able to like make music like that, but I think that would be my inspiration just because of the way they have like a specific sound, you know. If you've listened to Sisters of Mercy, you know what I'm talking about. But I think that would be my biggest inspiration if I were to make goth music. Zombie actually asked like 5 questions, and another question from Zombie was, what got you into the goth subculture and when? And I will actually be making a whole separate video about that. So I will give a complete and very huge answer to that question in a next video. So you can look forward to that. Thank you so much for your questions, by the way. There was also a very interesting question by Diorn T. Bruh or something. I'm sorry, I do not know how to pronounce that. But they asked, what's an underrated music genre in your opinion? And that would definitely be goth music. I feel like in a lot of places, goth music just isn't very popular at all. And I don't know if that's because people just don't like it or because people never heard of it, so never tried it. I'm also always trying to get people into goth music. Like I'm always showing my music to like my boyfriend, my family, my friends, and people from school and colleagues. I'm always like showing my music because I want people to appreciate the goth music more. So yeah, goth music is very underrated and I really hope that more people will get into it or give it a try. So if you're watching this and you don't listen to goth music, I would recommend you give it a try because maybe you'll like it. The Gothic writer asked, "Hey Jane, what's your worst experience of harassment due to being a goth?" Thank you so much for your question. This is a very interesting question, and I think it also just says a lot about how people treat goths and how that should be better. Because the fact that most goths and a lot of goths have actually experienced harassment due to being goth, it's just terrible. Like that shouldn't be a thing. So for me personally, I am lucky to say that I've never been physically harassed, at least definitely not for being goth. And I do definitely get a lot of like very mean and awful comments about being goth, like on my YouTube channel, but also just like in my life. Like a lot of people can react pretty bad to it. But honestly, I don't think that's like the worst harassment, because to me, the most annoying thing as a goth, it's probably the number of gross messages that I get, like in my Instagram DMs, on Discord, and even in my mailbox. Someone in my mailbox even sent me like very gross things. And I think that is probably for me personally the most annoying harassment that I get as a goth, because most of these people, they see or hear that I'm a goth and the first thing they think is, oh, a goth and I need a goth girlfriend, so let me just DM her and ask all kinds of crazy questions. I also get so many questions and requests for if I make spicy content, because apparently people assume because I'm a goth that I must have an OF or something, which I don't and I will never make. And I know that a lot of female creators experience this, but I feel like because I'm a goth, it kind of takes a whole other direction, and it's often very much about like BDSM type of stuff, or it's about someone being desperate for a goth girlfriend. But I really don't like getting those kind of messages. Like, I'd rather have someone just leave a stupid hate comment than someone giving me entire essays about very gross things that they want to do. So back to some less serious stuff. So Nathan Young 2293 asked, who would win in a fight between a goth or an emo? Well, I know I'm very biased because I'm a goth, but I would say goth. And just as a warning, this entire response is a joke. But you know, stereotypically, goths have a lot of hatred in them and are very like dark beings, and they just hate other people. If a goth would fight an emo, like a physical fight, because the goth would have so much hatred towards the emo, that the goth would be like overpowering the emo. And since emos are known for disliking themselves, the emo would probably just take it. If the goth is beating them up, the emo would probably just take it and apologize and be sorry about it. So I feel like according to stereotypes of emos and goths, a goth would win in a physical fight. Please don't take that answer too seriously. Anonymous asked, are you single? No, I am not. I have a boyfriend. We've been together for 3 years. And in case anyone's wondering, no, he's not a goth. He's more into like rap music and he dresses pretty casually. But we have other interests that we're both into, like video games and traveling and that sort of stuff. So yeah. Stuart Casey 777 asked, do you like anime? I get this question a lot, so that's why I thought I'd include it. No, I don't really like anime anymore. I used to watch anime when I was like maybe 12 or 13. I used to watch like Tokyo Ghoul and Death Note and that sort of stuff, but I haven't really watched anime in like 8 or 9 years. But thank you for your question. So there were also a couple of questions about my work. I work as a mortician in a morgue in a hospital. I've worked there for almost 2 years now, and I know it's kind of a topic that a lot of people like asking things about. So I told people they could ask questions about my job, so a lot of people did. So to start off, Hugs asked, how did you start working at the morgue? So this is unrelated to this question, but because I am a goth, a lot of people always assume that I started working at the morgue because I have some sort of weird fascination or crazy obsession with death or something, or that I like being around corpses, which just totally isn't true. How it actually went is when I met my boyfriend 3 years back. He used to work at a funeral home, because his dad also worked at the funeral home. He doesn't work in a funeral home anymore. He works in like computer stuff now. But back then when I met him, I was working a job where I just really wasn't happy. I just really didn't like my job. So he and his father, they started kind of helping me and looking around. And then we find out that they needed someone in the morgue in the same hospital where I was getting my medical education. And I went for an interview, and that's how I got to work there. So it isn't really related to me being goth at all. I do feel like maybe me being goth and me being a mortician both is related to me being comfortable with like dark topics and death and being comfortable to talk about these things and be around these things. And I'm also not very easily scared or grossed out. So I feel like maybe that is the reason why I work in a morgue and why I'm goth, but I don't work at the morgue because I am a goth or because I try to seem more goth by having like a job like that or because I have some kind of creepy fascination. Like, it's not like that. It's just because of my boyfriend and his father that I ended up there. And I was like, well, that sounds like a pretty good job. And it is. It's a very wonderful job. I've made a video about it. If you want to see more about it, I will put it somewhere on the screen. But yeah, that's how it went. So thank you for your question. The Magic Hobo asked, what's the worst thing you've seen in the morgue? Asking for a friend who's going to be a mortician. So in the 2 years that I've been working at the morgue, I've seen a lot of things that most people haven't ever seen in their whole life. But when we're talking about the worst things, there's a couple of things that I feel like are the worst things I've ever seen. So the first thing that comes to my mind is children or babies or just any person that is very young. That is always so very difficult to see as someone who works in a morgue. Like, I'm kind of used to seeing like corpses now, so I can handle that pretty well. But every time that it's a very young person, it can be pretty difficult, as you can probably imagine. It's just something that you really don't want to see. Like, a child isn't supposed to be in a morgue. That's not how it's supposed to be. And it's always just very difficult to see, especially if the parents are there too, because sometimes we have family in the morgue too. I remember my very first day when I started working there, the very first patient or like diseased person that I had there was a person that was exactly my age, and that was pretty like confronting. Just, you start working at a morgue and the first thing you see is someone who is your age, and they were just lying there in the morgue, and that is pretty difficult to see, especially thinking like that could have been me. I'm the same age. So yeah, those things are definitely the worst. But if you want to hear any gross stories, so this is like a little warning to people who don't want to hear gross stuff, skip ahead like 2 minutes into the video because I'm gonna start talking about like body stuff. So next to our morgue there is a police morgue. They need to identify bodies, or they need to do like investigations or that kind of stuff. And they often get bodies that have been discovered in like their house or in the sea sometimes that have been dead for quite a while. And as you can imagine, corpses that have been dead for a while can get pretty bad. But I think one of the worst things I've ever seen there was a body, and that person was found in their home. Like, I believe the neighbors called, like, it's smelling kind of bad in here. And on that day, the police actually came to us to ask if we could help because we needed to seal the body. Sometimes we seal a body, which is like you put the body in a plastic bag and you suck all of the air out of it and then you close the bag. Like, it's kind of the same that is done with certain foods. You just kind of like vacuum seal the body. So in this case, we needed to vacuum seal a body because there were maggots in it. So when a person has been dead for a while, it often happens that flies lay eggs on the body, which often happens in the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. But this person that had been dead for quite a while didn't just have some maggots on his face. This person had an entire mountain of maggots on his body. All of the maggots were escaping, so they were crawling over our shoes and stuff on the floor. So what we ended up doing was literally put the body with the maggots inside of a plastic bag. So like all the maggots died and also nothing could crawl out of it. Yeah, that is probably like one of the grossest stories that I have. But I do want to say that this is not something that like happens a lot, because usually in our morgue, we don't really get maggots. So it's kind of something that happens more in a police morgue than in a normal morgue, and it's also just very rare that it's an entire pile of maggots. So yeah, there can be things pretty gross, but it's also still a job that I do enjoy. It's just a very thankful job, and you are literally caring for someone in their very last moments on earth, like as a body. So it's a pretty wonderful job, but it does come with some things that some people wouldn't really like. Anonymous asked, if you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be? So this is a pretty personal question, but I told people that that's okay. I would honestly want to give myself like hundreds of advices, because my younger self just was very naive and I made a lot of mistakes, but I think that's kind of also part of being young and being a teenager, is just making mistakes and learning from it. I feel like, especially in my teenage years, I just let a lot of people in that weren't good for me, and I pushed a lot of people away that were actually good for me. And I think a good advice to myself would be, get rid of other people who are trying to control your life and who are trying to change you, and just accept other people into your life who are actually good for you and who actually accept you for the way that you are. Because I've been doing that for the past few years and I've never been happier. I surround myself with only the good people, and I also feel like I'm just a lot happier because they just let me be who I want. And I'm also just a lot less stressed about having to prove myself to people or having to be someone that I'm not, because I just finally surround myself with the good people, I feel like. Yeah, I think that's the advice that I would give myself. Mary asked, hi, if you could be any age for the rest of your life, which would you choose and why? I would definitely choose like around the age that I am now, like around 20, maybe a little bit older. I would definitely not want to be a child, because I want to be 18 or above, because I want to have the freedom to do what I want, you know. I want to be able to live as an adult, because I just love my adult life a lot more than my child life. And I would also never want to go back to high school, because my time in high school just wasn't the best. But I feel like this is a pretty good time, because I'm currently in university. I also have a part-time job, so I kind of have the money to do what I want, but I also still have the time and freedom to do what I want. So I don't have too many responsibilities. I don't have to pay for a house because I live with my parents. I can go on vacations, and I also don't have a job that I need to go to every day. Like, I currently have a job that I only need to go to like once or twice a week, besides university. And I kind of dress how I want, because I don't have a full-time job yet, so I can still dress a little goth sometimes to university, and I can still post videos like this on YouTube. So yeah, I think this is probably a perfect age. But maybe once I have like my own house and my own job, I will prefer that. But I don't know yet, because I have never had that. So yeah, thank you. That's a very interesting question. Mary also asked, what 3 words would you use to describe yourself? I think firstly I would say creative, because I like to think that I'm kind of creative. Like, I love writing, like creative writing. I love being creative with makeup or my hair or with my clothes. I like being creative with creating content on YouTube. I would also probably say caring, because I care a lot about the people that are close to me, and I always try to make sure that everyone is okay and everyone feels good. So I think I'm also pretty caring, especially to like my family and my boyfriend and my friends, I would say. And the last word would probably be like organized or like control freak, because I like to have everything very organized and structured. I like planning things ahead, and I still have like a paper agenda where I write down everything that I'm going to do, because I just need to have it like all organized and stuff. This kind of feels like a job interview, like naming 3 words about myself. I'm pretty sure I've done that in like a job interview before, but it's a very good question. Thank you. Jurassic Reptile asked, what is your favorite horror movie, monster or villain? I'm pretty sure I could name like 20 that I really like, but lately one of my favorites has been Art the Clown from Terrifier, because he's just funny. Like, he always makes me laugh. So I think Art the Clown is like my current favorite. But I also always really liked Jigsaw from Saw, just because of like that little thing, like, I want to play a game. And it's just also a very unique villain, because he doesn't just like kill people, he kind of makes people choose whether they want to live with like an impairment or like going through something, a trap, you know, or die. So I think that's also one of my favorites, because it's just so unique. Yeah, but I also just like pretty much every one of the killers from like slasher movies, like Ghostface and Michael Myers and like that sort of stuff. So, but I would say probably like Jigsaw or Art the Clown for now. So yeah, thank you for your question. Carnage1138 asked, where does Jane go to Goth out? Any festivals or special places? Honestly, I don't really go out that much. Like, I'm not really someone who goes a lot to clubs or parties. Like, every once in a while I go to things, but I'm just not really a person who likes doing that. So yeah, which I know is pretty boring, especially as a goth, but I kind of just hold my own parties. Like in my room, I will just put on goth music like on a high volume and I will just dance in my room because I don't know, I just like that. And also just in my area, I don't feel like there's a lot of goth clubs, at least not that I know of. And the normal clubs just play music that I don't like, and there's people that I don't like. So nothing like clubs, but I do really like festivals and concerts. Just kind of depends on what there is. But I went to the Rock Circus in the Netherlands 2 years back, which was like kind of a rock festival kind of thing. There's also this thing called Graspop, which is like a metal festival, which is in Belgium. So kind of those kind of festivals I really like, and I also go to just any concert that there is. Like if one of the bands that I like announces a concert, if I can go and I have the money for it, then I will go. So yeah, I'm more into like festivals and concerts and less into clubs and that sort of stuff. So thank you for this question. Monte6699 asked, what is the strangest fact you know as a medicine student? I know a lot of fun facts as a medical student, but it's kind of hard to just think of one on the top of my head. Like I especially know a lot of things about like medication. So for example, you know, Viagra. It originally wasn't meant to do what it does. It was originally meant to treat high blood pressure and angina pectoris, or however you say that in English. But when they were doing a trial to like test if the drug worked, a lot of men were describing a certain side effect, and that is what Viagra is used for now. I always think that's such a funny fact, but there's also this thing that I find so interesting because one of my favorite subjects in like the medical world is neurology, and there's this thing that can happen when someone goes through a stroke, and that is called hemispatial neglect. And that is where a person ignores the entire left side of the world. So it can also happen to the right side of the world, but it's most often the left side. Basically what it is a person can see the left side of the world, but they ignore it. So if you give them a plate of food, they will only eat the right side of their plate because they just forget kind of that there is a left side. So only if you turn the plate around like 180 degrees, they will notice the food that was on the left side of the plate. And these people can also forget that their body has a left side. I've actually met a woman once who has hemispatial neglect, and she said that every morning when she put on her pants, she forgot to put on like the pants on the left side. So every morning after putting on her pants, she would trip because she forgets to put on the left side, because her brain just pretty much ignores the fact that she also has a left leg. And you can also see this very well if you let these people draw things. Like if you let them draw a house, they will only draw half of a house. Or if you let them draw a clock, they will only write the numbers of the clock on the right side of a circle. I will show you examples if I can find them. Like, I don't know if this is interesting to anyone else, but I just think this is such an interesting and like crazy thing that can happen to people, that they just kind of forget or ignore the entire left side of the world, like everything that is on the left side. That is one of the kind of like fun facts that I know, because it's just kind of like a very like crazy phenomenon, I think. So thank you for this question. Fam Psycho asked, if I listen to goth and emo and I wear a lot of black, which one would I be? Honestly, whichever you want to be. Like, if you listen to goth and emo music, I think you could call yourself a goth or an emo. Kind of depends on which label you would prefer, I think. I think you could just be whatever you want to be, because they both wear black a lot and they're both music based. So I would say just call yourself whatever you want, or don't put a label on yourself. It's kind of whatever you prefer, so I hope that helps. Average Joe 1977 asked, Robert Smith or Peter Steele? That is a difficult question, and especially because I don't know, like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about looks? Because if it's about the looks, then I would say Peter Steele, especially if you compare him to the current Robert Smith. If we're talking about like as a person, like as a character, I have no clue, because I'm not the kind of person who really knows a lot about the artist that they listen to. I'm not the kind of person who like looks up interviews or information about someone's life or that sort of stuff. Like, I kind of just listen to the music, and sometimes I look up some things about the ideology of the band or something, or the history of the band. But I'm not very interested in like the personal lives or like the personalities of the artists that I listen to. I do know some things about Robert Smith because Instagram keeps pushing like Robert Smith content down my throat. But honestly, I wouldn't know. And if we're talking about the music, so like kind of like probably The Cure versus Type O Negative. I would say The Cure. I like Type O Negative. I literally have one of their songs as my ringtone right now. But I feel like I have a bigger connection with The Cure because I've been listening to them for a lot longer. I listen to them a lot more. I listen to a lot more different songs from The Cure. My dad also likes The Cure, so that makes me even more into The Cure. So yeah, it's kind of a difficult question because I don't know, are you talking about like the looks, the music, the person? But for looks, I would say Peter. For music, I would say Robert, even though I like Peter's music a lot too. And as a person, I would say, I don't know, because I don't know them. This is actually a very interesting question to ask a goth, but it's also kind of difficult to answer. But thank you for this question. So those were all the questions that I wanted to answer today. I'm very sorry if I didn't answer your question, but you can just send me a text if you still want to know the answer, or if you have any questions, comment down below. I will reply to your comments. Thank you all so much for your questions. All of these were very interesting questions, and I really hope that my answers were somewhat interesting too. I had a lot of fun making this video, so in the future I will probably do another Q&A. But yeah, this was a really fun video to make, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video too. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, check out my Instagram and my Discord server and the memberships on my channel. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment under my video, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye!